I never thought a simple bet could change the way I saw myself forever. It started like any other night, just me and her, my best friend since college, sitting on the couch in her apartment, surrounded by the soft glow of fairy lights and the smell of warm tea. We were joking around, laughing too loudly, scrolling through her phone, and playing one of those silly do or dare challenges that seemed harmless. I had no idea that by the end of the night, my entire sense of identity would be challenged in ways I never imagined. She smirked at me, her eyes sparkling with mischief, and said, "If you lose, you wear it." I laughed, thinking it was nothing serious, just another one of her crazy ideas. But the way she said it, there was a weight in her tone, a challenge that made my heart skip. I had to know what she meant, but when I asked, she just grinned, holding up a small, neatly folded package. "Open it if you lose," she said, and my curiosity got the better of me. I had no idea what was inside, but I didn't think it mattered. I agreed to the bet without a second thought, convinced I could outplay her like I always did. We started the game, innocent, silly, competitive. Truth or dare, trivia, ridiculous challenges that made us both laugh until our stomachs hurt. But she's cunning, smarter than me, and I didn't see it coming. Every time I thought I had the upper hand, she'd pull some clever trick or an impossible question that left me fumbling, frustrated, and laughing at myself. And then, finally, it happened. I lost. My heart sank, but I tried to brush it off, laughing nervously, assuming it would be something minor. But the moment she slid the folded package toward me, my stomach twisted in anticipation and fear. I looked at her, and the playful sparkle in her eyes was mixed with something dangerous, daring, and unstoppable. "Ready?" she asked, her voice soft but commanding. I swallowed hard. "I guess, yeah," I muttered. I unfolded the package, and my eyes widened in disbelief. Inside was a delicate, silky outfit. Soft pastel colors, lace, ribbons, and everything I had always associated with a world I'd only admired from a distance, secretly, never daring to explore. My chest tightened, my palms got sweaty, and I felt a rush of emotions I didn't even have names for. Embarrassment, fear, curiosity, excitement, something else that made my heart pound. She watched me intently, her grin teasing, but there was no judgment, only this strange kind of encouragement that made it harder to resist. "You lost," she said simply, almost matter-of-factly. "So you wear it." My mind screamed, argued, reasoned, denied, but deep down, there was a flicker of something I hadn't acknowledged before. Something inside me that had always been curious, that had always wondered what it would feel like to step into someone else's skin, someone lighter, softer, freer. I hesitated, hands trembling, staring at the fabric as if it was some forbidden treasure. She reached over, gently taking my hands, and said, "It's okay. Just try. No one's here but us. Just for fun. Trust me." Her voice was warm, patient, coaxing, and I felt myself nod, despite every nerve in my body screaming to run. That's when the transformation began, not the physical kind, not yet, but the internal shift. I felt vulnerable, exposed, and alive all at once. I left my clothes in a neat pile, feeling strangely naked, and slowly, hesitantly, I began to put on the outfit. The material was cool against my skin, and every movement, every adjustment made me hyper-aware of my body in a new way. It was intimate, unfamiliar, and startling. She helped me with the finer details, the laces, the ribbons, the way the fabric draped just so, and every time she did, I felt a mix of embarrassment and thrill that made my heart beat erratic. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror and froze. The reflection staring back wasn't just me. It was a version of me I'd never allowed to exist outside my imagination. Soft, delicate, undeniably, beautiful in a way that left me speechless. My eyes lingered on my own reflection, tracing the curves and lines, the way the outfit hugged me, the subtle glow it seemed to give my skin. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. And she didn't let me. She stood beside me, smiling, and said, "You look amazing." Her words felt like a key turning in a lock I didn't know I had. I swallowed hard, cheeks burning, heart racing, and for the first time in my life, I allowed myself to just be. But then the real challenge hit. Stepping out of the safety of her apartment, even just into the living room, felt like crossing a bridge I wasn't sure I was ready for. She grabbed my hand, laughed softly, and said, "Come on, you promised." And so I did. I followed her lead, tentative at first, unsure of how I would look, how I would feel, how the world would judge me even in the smallest, imaginary way. And then, slowly, something shifted. I noticed the way my own movements changed, softer, lighter, more fluid. The way my voice, when I spoke, had a slightly higher pitch, almost without my realizing. My reflection had already shown me a truth I had buried. There was a part of me that thrived in this softness, this vulnerability, this boldness hidden within delicacy. I was terrified, yes, but I was also exhilarated, and I couldn't stop the smile that spread across my face as I realized. I was enjoying this. Her laughter filled the room, not mocking, but celebratory, and it was contagious. She twirled me around, showing off, teasing me gently, and every movement made my confidence grow, even as my cheeks burned with self-consciousness. I could feel my boundaries shifting, the edges of my identity stretching into shapes I had never acknowledged, shapes that felt strange and thrilling and liberating. I kept catching glimpses of myself in the mirrors scattered around her apartment, and each reflection seemed to whisper the same thing: you can be more than you've allowed yourself to be. And I wanted to believe it, more than anything. By the end of the night, I wasn't just wearing the outfit. I was inhabiting it, owning it in a way I didn't think possible. The fear was still there, lurking in the corners of my mind, but it was tempered by excitement, by curiosity, by a strange sense of empowerment that left me buzzing. I looked at her, and she just smiled knowingly, as if she had always known this moment would happen. She didn't say a word, because she didn't have to. I had already crossed the line from fear to fascination, from doubt to self-discovery, and I knew, deep down, that this night would mark the beginning of something irreversible. Something beautiful. Something that was mine. The next morning, I woke up still in the outfit, curled up under the soft blanket she had thrown over me the night before. Sunlight streamed through the window, painting everything in warm gold, and for a moment, I forgot where I was. Then it all came rushing back, the bet, the outfit, the way I had looked in the mirror. My heart raced, a mix of lingering embarrassment and an undeniable thrill. I expected it to feel wrong, awkward, maybe even shameful. But it didn't. Not really. I felt alive. There was a strange comfort in the softness against my skin, the delicate patterns brushing over me, the way my body felt different, more attuned, more aware. I realized with a jolt that I had slept in it because I hadn't wanted to take it off. That scared me more than anything. She came into the room, yawning and smiling, carrying 2 mugs of tea. "Good morning, sleepyhead," she said casually, as if nothing about yesterday had been extraordinary. My cheeks burned, and I tried to sit up quickly, but she gently pushed me back down. "Relax. Enjoy it. You don't have to rush to be normal again." Normal. That word suddenly felt strange, heavy, like it belonged to a world that didn't quite fit me anymore. I stared at her, half expecting her to tease me, to laugh at me for being me. But she didn't. She just handed me a mug, and I felt this mix of safety and encouragement that made my chest tighten. The day moved slowly, almost dreamlike. Every time I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror or the window, I felt a jolt of both panic and fascination. Who was I now? And more importantly, who did I want to be? I found myself experimenting, twirling, adjusting the outfit, looking at my hands, the way my fingers rested lightly against the fabric. I was aware of every detail, every texture, every curve, as if I were seeing myself for the first time. There was fear, yes, but there was also freedom. I realized I had spent so much of my life trying to fit into molds that didn't feel natural. But now, in this impossible softness, I felt more authentic than ever. By the afternoon, she suggested something that made my stomach twist in both excitement and dread. "Let's go out," she said simply, like it was no big deal. "Just a quick walk. Just to see how it feels." I froze, heart hammering in my chest. Go out. In public. Wearing this. My mind raced through every possible scenario. Judgment, ridicule, awkward stares, embarrassment. But a small, rebellious part of me whispered, maybe it's time. Maybe I deserve to see myself in the world like this. I nodded, hesitantly, And she grinned, grabbing my hand. Stepping outside, the sun was warmer than I expected, the city humming with life. Every step I took made me acutely aware of the outfit, the way it swayed, the way the air brushed against the delicate fabric. People walked past, oblivious, or so it seemed, and I realized something startling. It wasn't terrifying. It wasn't embarrassing. It was exhilarating. I felt lighter, freer, more visible in a way I had never been. My movements changed, softening, becoming more fluid, more expressive. I laughed, nervously at first, then more freely, and she laughed with me, her hand warm in mine, her presence steadying me. The more I moved through the streets, the more my fears melted. I noticed little things I hadn't expected. The way the sun caught the ribbons, the gentle sway of the lace, the subtle confidence building in my shoulders. Every passerby who glanced at me didn't seem to judge. Maybe they didn't even notice. Or maybe they did, and it didn't matter. For the first time, I felt like I was living in a truth I had hidden even from myself. My heart swelled with a strange pride, a mix of vulnerability and empowerment, and I realized that losing that bet had unlocked something I had spent years suppressing. Back at her apartment, the transformation began to feel less like play and more like discovery. We spent hours experimenting, different hairstyles, subtle makeup, little accessories she brought out from her drawers. Every touch, every adjustment, felt like unlocking another part of me I hadn't known existed. I was cautious, yes, but curious beyond measure. I noticed the way my posture changed, the soft sway in my walk, the heightened awareness of my own presence. I looked at her, and she just smiled knowingly, as if she had seen this coming all along. "You're starting to embrace it," she said softly. And I couldn't deny it. I was. But with discovery came fear. I found myself questioning everything. What did this mean about me? Who would understand if they knew? Could I go back to the way things were? And then the small, quiet moments hit me hardest. When I was alone, just looking in the mirror, the outfit clinging softly to me, I felt a tear slip down my cheek. It wasn't sadness. It was recognition, relief, and a hint of longing. I was seeing myself fully for the first time, not just the surface, not just what the world expected, but the deeper me, the me that had always been there, hiding, waiting. And it hurt and thrilled me all at once. The evening came, and with it, a new layer of challenge. She suggested we record a little video, just us, exploring this side of me, seeing it on screen. I panicked. The thought of being seen, even by a camera, made my chest tighten. But she encouraged me, softly, patiently, and slowly. I let myself relax. I moved, posed, experimented with expressions, and the camera captured something incredible. Not perfection, not performance, but authenticity. I was me, in a way I had never been. And when I watched it back, I realized something that shook me. I liked what I saw. Not in a vain way, not shallow, but in a deep, liberating sense that maybe this version of me had been waiting to be acknowledged all along. By the end of the night, exhaustion set in, but so did a strange euphoria. I had crossed thresholds I never thought I would, explored edges of my identity I hadn't dared touch, and for the first time, felt the exhilarating tension between fear and freedom, shame and acceptance, secrecy and truth. And through it all, she had been there, steady, encouraging, unwavering. She hadn't pushed me. She had guided me, and I realized that in losing the bet, I had gained something infinitely more valuable, a glimpse of who I could truly be. I went to bed that night, still in the outfit, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing and calm all at once. Something fundamental had shifted. I couldn't unsee myself now. I couldn't undo the feeling of freedom, of soft confidence, of curiosity blossoming into self-acceptance. And as sleep overtook me, I realized that tomorrow would be another test. Another opportunity to explore, to push boundaries, to see just how far I could go, and I felt a thrill in my chest that told me I was ready for it. The next few days blurred together, a mixture of thrill, anxiety, and wonder. I found myself thinking about the outfit constantly, imagining new ways to wear it, how it moved, how it felt against my skin. Every time I caught my reflection, even in a shop window or my phone screen, I froze for a moment, then smiled, almost shyly. I couldn't believe how much joy something as simple as fabric and lace could bring. But joy was tangled with fear. I worried what people would think if they knew. What my co-workers would say. What my family would think. Even more than that, I wondered what it said about me. Who was I really, if I enjoyed this so much? One afternoon, she suggested something I wasn't sure I was ready for. "Let's go out further," she said casually, like it was nothing. "To a cafe. Public. Real people. Just for an hour." My stomach dropped. Public. Real people. My heartbeat surged, panic mixing with excitement. I had tested myself in the apartment, in the streets nearby, but this was something else. She saw the hesitation, smiled gently, and said, "You don't have to do anything you're not ready for. But I think you might surprise yourself." That gentle push was exactly what I needed. Somehow, I nodded, and we set off. Every step toward the cafe was a battle between fear and curiosity. My hands were sweaty, my stomach a twisted knot, but the thrill was undeniable. I kept reminding myself, this was only an experiment. Only a way to explore. No one else needed to know. But when we arrived, and I walked through the door, the world didn't judge. People were busy with their lives, sipping coffee, chatting, typing on laptops. And yet, I felt exposed. Every step felt magnified, every glance a potential spotlight on me. My chest tightened, but I kept moving, clutching her hand as a lifeline. We found a table by the window, and I kept my head slightly down, aware of the soft fabric, the gentle sway of the outfit as I sat. She whispered encouragements, complimented little details, and I felt my confidence building in small, imperceptible ways. I noticed something profound. I was breathing differently. Lightly, carefully, as if my body was slowly learning a new rhythm. The world hadn't changed, but I had. I was softer, more aware, more alive. And the fear? It didn't disappear, but it transformed. It became a quiet hum beneath the excitement, a reminder that growth always comes with discomfort. Over the next few hours, I experimented with subtle movements, with gestures, with expressions. I noticed how my voice shifted slightly, unconsciously, when I spoke. I laughed more easily. I smiled more openly. I felt a new energy, a lightness I hadn't known existed inside me. People around us seemed oblivious or accepting in their own way, and I realized something extraordinary. For the first time, I wasn't hiding. Not fully. I was showing a part of myself, even if only a fraction, and it felt liberating. Back home, exhaustion met exhilaration. I collapsed on the couch, outfit slightly wrinkled, cheeks flushed, heart racing. She sat beside me, silent for a moment, then said softly, "You were amazing today. You faced a lot, and you handled it." Her words weren't just praise, they were recognition, validation, and it hit me harder than I expected. I realized that a part of me had always feared being seen. Not just for who I was, but for the softer, more vulnerable, more authentic parts one had buried. And yet, in just a few hours, I had stepped into that light and survived. More than survived, I had thrived. That night, alone in my room, I experimented further. I tried different accessories, different hairstyles, adjusting the outfit until it felt like it truly belonged to me, not just something I wore because I had lost a bet. I stared at myself in the mirror and realized that this version of me, the softer, more delicate, more expressive me, was not a mistake, not a joke, not a mask. It was real. I was real. And for the first time, I wanted to be seen like this, to explore this side of myself further. But fear lingered, stubborn and insistent. Could I ever show this side to anyone else? My family, my friends, my co-workers. What would they think? What would they say? And yet, beneath the fear, a tiny spark of courage burned. If I could face the world in a cafe, in a soft, delicate outfit that made my heart race and my hands shake, then maybe I could face more. Maybe I could explore who I truly was, without shame, without hiding. The days that followed were a delicate dance between caution and exploration. I began experimenting with outfits in secret, adjusting, twirling, learning to move differently, noticing how my posture and gestures shifted subtly, almost imperceptibly. Every new discovery thrilled me, terrified me, and liberated me all at once. And through it all, she remained my guide, my anchor, My friend who understood the delicate balance between fear and exhilaration. She never pushed too far, never judged, just encouraged me to see what was possible, and in her presence, I began to truly trust myself. One evening, she surprised me with a small, unassuming challenge. "Let's try a little photo shoot," she said, pulling out her camera. My stomach dropped. Public exposure, even in private. The thought made my heart pound, but I nodded, trusting her. And so we spent hours experimenting with poses, expressions, angles. Each photo revealed something new, not perfection, not fantasy, but authenticity. The camera captured moments I didn't even realize I was expressing. Confidence, curiosity, joy, vulnerability. And when we looked at the images together, I felt something I hadn't felt before. I saw a version of myself that was whole, radiant, and alive. I saw strength in softness, courage in vulnerability, and a beauty I had never allowed myself to acknowledge. That night, I lay in bed, outfit neatly folded beside me, mind buzzing. Fear still lingered, yes, but it had softened, become a companion rather than an obstacle. I realized that losing the bet had been the first step, but every choice I made afterward, every step into public spaces, every experiment with self-expression, every small act of courage, had been mine. And that realization was intoxicating. I was no longer just someone who had lost a silly bet. I was someone discovering, embracing, and claiming a side of myself I had never known could exist. And I wanted more. The days turned into weeks, and every step I took in this new version of myself brought me closer to understanding who I truly was. What had started as a silly bet, a playful dare that seemed harmless at first, had become something far greater, a journey of self-discovery, courage, and identity. The outfit I had lost the bet to wear had been only the beginning. It was a key, unlocking doors I had kept tightly shut, doors I had convinced myself were dangerous or forbidden. And yet, here I was, stepping through them one by one, sometimes trembling, sometimes laughing, but always moving forward. One afternoon, she suggested something that sent a jolt of fear through me. "Let's go downtown," she said, "just for a walk. You, me, and a few small errands. People will see you, I promise. No one will know us here, but it's time to test yourself." My stomach twisted. Downtown. Public spaces crowded with strangers. The thought made me sweat, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. And yet, a part of me, a growing, insistent part, knew I was ready. I had learned in small doses, in quiet experiments, in private rooms and empty streets, that I could face the world as this version of me. It terrified me, but it also thrilled me beyond measure. We stepped out together, the city bustling, bright, noisy. Every glance felt magnified, every step deliberate. My hand found hers instinctively, the anchor I had relied on since the beginning, and it steadied me. I noticed the sway of the outfit, the delicate movement of the fabric, and how every small detail amplified my awareness of myself. And as we walked, something incredible happened. I began to notice my own power in vulnerability. Every step, every glance, every subtle movement was a declaration. I was soft, I was delicate, I was exploring a side of myself I had hidden for years, and yet I was bold, unafraid, fully present. The world, surprisingly, didn't judge. People were busy with their lives, immersed in their own routines, and somehow that gave me permission to exist fully in my own skin. I laughed more freely than I had in years, twirled on the sidewalk when I thought no one was looking, and even caught myself striking poses unconsciously, enjoying the subtle thrill of movement, lightness, expression. The more I embraced it, the more natural it felt. I realized that this transformation wasn't just about clothing or appearances. It was about letting myself breathe, letting myself exist authentically, letting the layers I had buried for so long fall away. Back at her apartment, the final stage of transformation began. She pulled out a few new pieces, soft fabrics, subtle makeup, accessories that highlighted and celebrated who I was becoming. Together, we experimented, laughed, and pushed the boundaries of what I had once believed was possible. And then it happened. I looked in the mirror and truly saw myself, not the version I had hidden, not the one dictated by fear or expectation, but me. The reflection staring back was confident, soft, radiant, alive. And I felt a wave of emotion so intense I had to close my eyes for a moment. Joy, relief, acceptance, awe, and above all, pride. I had lost a bet, yes, but in losing, I had discovered a freedom I had never known. That night, alone, I reflected on the journey. The fear that had once gripped me, the fear of judgment, exposure, failure, had not disappeared, but it had transformed. It had become a companion, a reminder that growth is never comfortable, that courage is not the absence of fear but the decision to move forward despite it. I realized that the true bet wasn't with her. The bet had always been with myself. Would I allow myself to be seen? To explore? To embrace the soft, delicate, authentic self I had always hidden? And I had answered yes. In the weeks that followed, I experimented more boldly, with curiosity and care. Each outfit, each twirl, each soft step was a reaffirmation of identity, courage, and discovery. Friends, strangers, the city itself became a canvas, and I began painting myself into it with confidence I had never known. She remained my guide, my witness, my friend who had sparked this transformation with a simple dare, a playful challenge, and unwavering encouragement. And every time I looked at her, I realized how much she had given me, the gift of seeing myself without fear, the courage to explore, the freedom to just be. Eventually, the fear began to fade further, replaced by a quiet, steady confidence. I no longer felt the need to hide, to shrink, to pretend. I was soft, delicate, expressive, but I was strong. Vulnerable, yet resilient. Afraid, yet exhilarated. And I knew that the loss of a bet had led to the discovery of something infinitely greater. My own courage, my own authenticity, and a profound, liberating sense of self-acceptance. And so, the outfit, the bet, the challenge, it became more than fabric, more than fun. It became a symbol of courage. Of daring to explore, to stumble, to fall, and to rise again in a form of myself I had never known I could inhabit. I had lost the bet, yes. But in losing, I had gained something immeasurable. The knowledge that who I am is beautiful, whole, and deserving of being seen. And in that realization, I finally understood what it meant to embrace transformation, not as a costume, a dare, or a game, but as a path toward the truest, most authentic version of myself. I stood before the mirror one last time that night, fully dressed, fully present, and for the first time in my life, I smiled without hesitation. I wasn't just wearing the outfit. I was inhabiting it. I was claiming it, owning it, and more importantly, claiming and owning myself. And I whispered softly to the reflection, the soft, radiant, alive reflection staring back at me, "Thank you for letting me see you. I'm ready to be you." And just like that, the bet that had seemed so trivial, so playful, had become a turning point. A doorway. A revelation. I had lost the game, but I had found myself.